Hi, welcome to today's masterclass. Today we are looking at all things database. This is one of my favorite topics. If you are currently nurturing a database, you will get it. And if you're not, then we're going to blow your minds today. When you have a nurtured and engaged database, it is a license to print money. So every time you're sending out emails, you should be seeing a lot of sales come through. You'll see an increase in web traffic. And the best thing about your database is these are your loyal fans. These are people that have already raised their hand and say, I like what you do. I want to know more. And every time you send them an email, you know it's going into their inbox. Whereas when we rely on social media, we have algorithms at play and somebody else is in charge. Throughout the lives this week, I've gone through lots of the reasons why you should be having a database, from things like you actually own your database, whereas you actually don't own your social media pages. You might think you do, but you don't, and you don't own those followers. Meta does. So if they shut down your page at any time, you really have no legal grounds to get that reinstated. And also when it comes to selling your business, your database is usually your most valuable asset. If people are going to take over an existing business, it's the database that they really want. They can, of course, start again and buy their own business, not buy business, sorry, set up their own business. And of course, there's, systems and things like that, staff that does come into play when you buy a business, but generally it's the database that they want. So the bigger the database, the more valuable your business is going to be. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to share my screen with you. Get started here. All right, so it's saying it's just loading. There we are. Okay, we're in. Okay, so let's get started. Ooh, gone too fast. Okay, that was the first page. Just making sure. Okay, so let's start with how to build an engaged database. So these things are really important when you're trying to build an engaged database. Because of course we want numbers. The higher the number in your database, the more valuable your business is going to be. But the key word here is engaged. Okay, there's no point having 20,000 people in your database if they are not then purchasing from you. So let's have a little look at what's really important. So I'm moving because there's a lot of noisy birds. So you need consistency. Consistency is key. And when I say consistency, I mean how often you're sending out your EDM. So we'll go through an ideal time frame later in the presentation, but you really want to be consistent with how you're sending them out. There's no point in sending one out here and then not sending another one for 6 weeks, and then next time not sending one for a few months, and then sending 5 in a week. You have to create a consistent flow. People need to recognize how often you're going to be landing in their inbox. Consistency is also related to your brand. So if you didn't do Masterclass last week, you can check that out on my YouTube channel. You need to make sure that your brand is consistent, so that when you are landing into their inbox, they recognize who it is. And that will be not just, logos and colors and fonts and all those sorts of things, but also the brand language and personality. So just making sure that you're really consistent with your database. You want to make sure that you are adding value to the members of your database. So, people are really savvy now, and you can't just bombard people with advertising. This isn't the 1950s where you could just put up a poster telling people to smoke, it was good for their health, and everyone would smoke. Like, people are smarter than that. There's so much marketing in this digital world. that you can't just say, buy my shit. Okay, you've got to be adding value to people's lives. And this is key when you're trying to build an engaged database. You need to be really thinking about, why do people want to be part of my community? What do I have to offer them? How can I serve these people? It can't just be constantly buy my shit. There needs to be some variety. People get bored if it's the same thing over and over. So just making sure that you're keeping it really fresh and bringing lots of different things so that there's always a reason to open up that email and to remain subscribed and growing it, because it will become, depending on your industry, but it's likely with most industries, there will become a time where your audience no longer wants to be or needs to be part of your community. For example, if your target audience is like parents of preschoolers, well, those children are going to grow up. Or if it's marketed at businesses in a certain industry, well, those people might move on. Those businesses might pivot. So you need to make sure that there's plenty of new people coming in. And of course, you want to grow it anyway because you want to grow your business. But you also need to grow it because there will be people leaving. If what you offer is not going to be necessarily for people for their whole lives. And that's really relevant to the majority of industries. If you look at fashion, the fashion that I wore in my 20s is not the same as what I wear in my 30s. So all of those groups, those databases and memberships that I used to be part of, I'm no longer part of because I'm not interested. That's just not who I am anymore. I've evolved as a person. I've aged as a person. So yeah, you need to make sure that that's growing. Okay, this is probably the biggest thing that I want you to take away from today, if nothing else. Okay, let's stop calling it a database. For the purpose of this masterclass, I will continue to use the word database, but that's because we're talking business to business right now, and I'm trying to help you grow your database. But in your work, in your your brand, within your workplace, within your team, the language you should be using should be something like membership or a loyalty program or community. Like, figure out exactly how you want to position it and then use that language. One of the worst things I ever see is when people have they make no effort and they just have a thing on their website saying, sign up to our newsletter. Well, doesn't that sound really fucking boring? Like, that's just like, hey, put your hand up if you want more junk mail in your inbox. Like, no thanks. But, people are getting over receiving emails from businesses in their inbox. There's like whole, movements where people spend hours just unsubscribing from all the things they don't want to know. So, you've got to be offering, value to remain in people's inboxes. So how do you do that? Well, you need to give them a sense of belonging. You need to create something that they want to be part of. Sorry, and that will not only encourage them to be part of it, but to stay and to keep opening up the emails, to keep purchasing, and to remain, very close to your business. So you can do this as a membership. You can do this as part of a loyalty program, and you can do it as creating a community. It's completely up to you. You need to work out what works for you, and coming up with a name. I used to work on boats, and theirs was like the Captain's Club membership when I owned my party venue that was all very princess based. We were calling them VIPs, very important princesses. So you can definitely tie it in with your brand and make that work for you. So let's talk about what you really need to be offering them as part of this membership. So when they're part of that membership, they really need to be given something exclusive. It needs to feel like, a like a VIP version. You know, this is like, they're important to the business. They need to be given some exclusivity. So that can be things like first time discounts. This is a really common thing that people do to just do a data grab. It's not my favorite. It does work. Um, it definitely works to get sign-ups, but whether it really works for the long-term relationship, I'm not so sure. But you can try and figure that in. You know, as I said earlier in the week when I did a live, what I've always done is just build a discount into my pricing and then expect everybody to sign up. So I would actually offer members pricing. So in my businesses in the past, I've always given all of my members 10% off everything that I sell. And I just make sure that that's accounted for when I do my costings. So yeah, you can do first time discounts, you can do member pricing, you can do early bird access. So if you've got things that sell out quickly, you know, allowing people that early bird access. I'll tell you who does this really well, Telstra. They work with a lot of concerts and things like that where they sell tickets to their members. I mean, like if that ever gave you a reason to sign up to a phone network, like I know heaps of people that get tickets to concerts that sell out when they go on public release just because they're a Telstra customer. So that, you know, it's a really great technique, and you can do this too. Member only products, so you can have like limited edition items or services that are only available for your members. This is really great to bring in new members. And you can also do member only offers and free gifts as well for your members, and that could be on sign up or on their anniversary, or you know, sometimes people will do like, if it's a restaurant, you get a free meal on your birthday, or a free massage or whatever it might be. So there's different things that you can do there. You got to make it personal. So let them get to know the people behind the business. So that needs to be in the content, in your language. Yeah, that needs to really come across in all of the emails. You need to feel like they're getting a sneak peek, like they're not just on the professional side of the business, like they get to be your friend. They get to see how it's really run, who you really are, and allow a personal connection to form. When you have that, people are going to be much more loyal to the brand. And let's talk about feedback. Now, when you have a closed audience, it's a really great place to get feedback from. So not only are you asking a controlled audience, but you also know that they're your target audience. Now, if you sometimes, you know, do this in public, like on your social media page, you might be attracting people that aren't actually your target audience. I'll give an example. A friend of mine who runs a retreat company once put on a business page that, oh, if I was to run a retreat for $5,000 and you had to share a room, how would that be? And you know, the majority of people were like, I think that's really expensive. I think that's a rip-off. I'd be really pissed off. And I was like, actually, I think I don't see a problem with that. For me, going to a retreat, I'd be not expecting luxurious accommodation. I'd be expecting high-end content and experience, and sharing a room wouldn't bother me. And she said, do you know what? You're more my target audience than any of these other people. So I said, yeah, because you're asking, you know, a wide range of people. What's the point of doing that? You know, you want to ask people that you're target audience. So when you have a membership, it's a really great place to test ideas or products, to run surveys, ask for suggestions. You know, you can ask them because they're your friend, they're part of your community, they're very loyal to your brand, they know your brand better than you, and they're very forgiving towards your brand. They understand that you are a person behind the brand. Okay, let's talk about, so EDMs, for those of you that don't know, is your email marketing that goes out. So email direct marketing, things that you send, emails that you're sending out regularly. Now, some of you will be terrified by this, but you should be sending out 1 to 2 emails a week for an engaged database. If you really can't handle that, if you are a solopreneur right now, you're on your own, you don't have the physical manpower to do that, then 1 per fortnight really needs to be a minimum. If you leave it longer than that, you're really not allowing any time for momentum to grow. Okay, I wouldn't send more than 2 a week. there's a couple of brands that get away with it. Kogan, Domino's, but they also have like a switch on, switch off. Their workflows are very clever, and they know when you've sort of when you're interested, like when you've looked up or purchased something recently, and it will sort of restart the daily emails. For most brands, that's just not a great idea. You're probably going to get unsubscribed if you land into people's inbox that often. Let's talk about some do's and don'ts. So do create a catchy title. So the title of your email is really important. It needs to be catchy. It needs to intrigue interest. Controversial titles can be quite good for opening rates. You can use emojis 100%. Just don't go overboard. I wouldn't use more than 3. Oh, look at that. This is what happens when you create a presentation in a rush. Use the preview, that's supposed to say, as a cliffhanger. So the first few lines of the email that you get to set on the first page of the EDM, you need to, again, create a lot of interest with that. It does not need to be the first few lines of the email. Some people think that that's what it's for. You don't have to do that. You are trying to create a bit of a cliffhanger. So there's a reason why, or, it can be a question or the start of a sentence you don't quite finish. You want people to open up that email. Do use templates. Do not feel the need to design a brand new email every single time. That is insane. You can set up one template and just use that over and over. So that just means you're just dropping images and changing the copy and changing the links on the buttons. Personally, I always think it's nice if you have 2 or 3 different ones. If you're using a good CRM, they'll actually suggest some templates that you can customize, and they'll suggest them for different things. There'll be some like great blog ones or editorial ones, sales ones, etc. So yeah, you can use those and then customize them to your brand and then save them as your own templates, and then you can just use them as they're relevant. Do use a CRM system. And again, I mentioned this in the week during the lives. You have to use a CRM system. It is not legal to just email people without having an unsubscribe option. You will get fined. So you need to be using a CRM system. Most of them are free if you don't have huge numbers of contacts. And even when you do use a paid one, they're not expensive, especially when you see the types of returns that you should be getting if you're nurturing your database. And make sure you have a strategy. I've done this myself. In fact, I do it now sometimes just with time, but it's so important to step away and create a strategy. Plan out. I try to plan a month in advance of what I'm going to be covering, sort of what my EDMs will have in them, so that they're not put together without thought. Because yeah, if you just say, oh, I've got to send an EDM out today, like the content just isn't great because you're not really doing it to add value. You're doing it because it's a task. So you need to really have a strategy in place. And the bigger the strategy and the further out you can go, the more professional and the higher results you will get. And I know for some of you that seems and like maybe not doable right now, but just even if you can just start planning the week ahead and slowly try to build that out. Major companies will have their strategies 6 months, a year in advance, and there's a reason for that, and it's because then the quality of the content can be so high. Okay, let's go into your don'ts. So don't have grammar and spelling errors, says the girl who has on the page a spelling error. But when you have your email, like I've done it, and all of these things, trust me, I'm definitely not perfect, and I don't always do all of these things myself. I'm just telling you how to be the most successful at it. And I have to remind myself to do these things too, because sometimes, you're a mum, you're in business, you just want to get shit done and out, but taking the extra couple of minutes makes all the difference. So, if you have grammar and spelling errors in your EDMs, it just lacks professionalism. Um, and it will polarize some people. Some people won't care, some people won't notice, but others will. So take the time to run a spell check through it, have Grammarly on your computer, or get someone to check over it. It's important. And we're going to go back through in a second about previewing. Don't send to anyone without consent. As I mentioned earlier, it's illegal. So even using a CRM system, you can't just go add people into your database. They have to sign up. They have to give consent. So you need to be using sign-up pages, landing pages, and all those things where people are ticking the box and saying, yes, I want to be part of your database. Okay, let's look at send without branding. I think that's meant to be sent with branding. Don't send without branding. That's one. So make sure that you have customized the email. I saw one from one of my favorite local businesses the other day. They did an EDM. It was pretty good. And at the bottom, they just left the gray and the MailChimp. Like, you can customize all of that. You change it to your brand colors. Make sure it looks the part. Make sure it matches your business and your brand. It's just such a waste if you don't, because you're not anchoring your brand into people's memories. So you really on that recognition, repetition. That's why consistency is so important. So make sure you take the time to fully brand your emails. Don't send without testing the links. I've done this. And do you know what? I once worked for a huge company in London, and they spent 20 grand on a newspaper ad, and someone put the wrong phone number. And it went to like the Salvation Army or something. And then we had to give a huge donation to the Salvation Army for them to take all our calls and give us the phone numbers so we could call people back. So it just wasn't a waste of money. It happens. But you can avoid that by checking. So where I've got next, don't send without a preview. Make sure you take the time to send a test email. I like to do a preview, and then you can click between how it's going to look on a desktop, how it's going to look on a tablet, how it's going to look on a phone, and just check that I'm happy with the layout. And then I send a test email to myself. At the moment, I'm solopreneur, I'm working on my own, but in the past I've had marketing teams. I would also send them to everybody in the marketing team, head of sales, etc., and get them all to take a look as well, because the more eyes, the better. People will pick up your spelling mistakes, grammar mistakes. They'll say this link doesn't work. The Facebook link doesn't work. And they might have better suggestions, all those sorts of things. So yes, make sure you are previewing them before you send them out. There's nothing worse than spending time creating a great EDM for your call to action not to work. So yes, make sure you test those. All right, so let's talk about content of emails, because I think this is a big thing for people. People don't know what on earth they're going to say. What are we going to talk about in these EDMs if I've got to send them 1 to 2 times a week? Well, look, there's 4 parts to any EDM. It needs to be educational. So people are signed up to your membership community, however you proposition that, because they're interested in your industry, your company, what you provide. So there needs to be something educational, and this can be anything. Like if you have, let's just say you have a baby clothes store, or like a kids clothes store. It doesn't have to be something about kids clothes. Like it could be mum's hack to school lunches, because it just has to relate to your audience, but it needs to relate to your niche. So if you were just doing fashion in general to women, and it wasn't aimed just at mums, then don't put lunchbox tips. That doesn't make sense. With that, you might do fashion tips, how to have an office outfit you can wear into town to party afterwards. You know how you can just take off the blazer. And, I love those women that do that. Like, I'm just a sweaty mess. And when I was in corporate, like, my feet stank. There is no way I could be going from the office into a nightclub. But hey ho, I love it when when you see these transformations, these fashion transformations, educational pieces like that. It needs to be community based. So making sure you're creating a sense of community, making sure people are feeling that sense of belonging, um, making sure it's a very inclusive chat, you know, sharing something maybe from your personal life or from what's going on with the team this week. It will all depend on the size of your business and what you've got going on. Asking questions, just being really relatable and bringing that sense of belonging. What's new? So that's talk about what's new in the business. Let's look at, what have you got going on? Have you got new offers? Is there a new event coming up? Do you have a new range in store? Like all those sorts of things. And then make sure there's a call to action. There needs to be some sort of link to your website. It's generally going to be a link to a website or to a cart sales page. But if it needs to be a phone number or whatever, or a calendar link, then have that there. They need to know what the next logical step is if they want to purchase from you. And generally, I would always offer some sort of incentive. So whether it's a discount or early bird access or whatever, but there needs to be some sort of exclusivity there for your members. Okay, let's talk about workflows. So in your workflows, we have your, I don't know how much everybody's going to know about workflows. I've got some really vague examples, but I'm going to try and give an overview without it being too basic. Here's some types of workflows that you can create. So you can do welcome workflows, abandoned cart workflows, we miss you. That's like when people haven't purchased for a while, birthdays, from a landing page, feedback after a purchase. So a workflow is basically you set up a trigger. And you can have multiple triggers into a workflow. So if you look at the top here, these would be your triggers. And this would be sort of, the thing that has to happen for them to enter this workflow. And then each of these are different emails that would be sent. And you can put time delays on them. So they could get one this week and maybe not get another one for 4 weeks. And they might not even get another one for a month. Like 3 months, or it could be days or hours, or however you want to work it, depending on the strategy that you've created. You can also use what ifs. So only send this if they opened the last email, or don't send this if they've already signed up. There's like an infinite number of different ways you can work it, and workflows are fucking incredible. They used to be a bit more challenging to set up, but they've made it a lot easier now. Oh. What I recommend when you set up a workflow, if you're doing it for yourself, is set it up. Drive some audience to it. Review the data. Like, where are people? Like, are people staying for the whole workflow? What's the result? Like, are you getting sales out of it? If people are exiting, where are they exiting? What are the open rates like? That will allow you then, to review that data and see where you could be doing better, and then make adjustments. And I literally adjust my workflows all the time, like every few weeks. And that's based on the data that I'm seeing, but also making sure they're up to date, because there might be different, your brand might progress, or you might have a new focus in the business where you're trying to push people to a new part of the business, or a new group, or a new offer or product, or you might change the location of your store, or maybe you do markets and something. You need to go back and check them all the time and just make sure that they're up to date. For me, having a workflow set up with information that's out of date is about as frustrating as going to the bathroom in a restaurant in June and seeing something promoting Mother's Day lunch. It really drives me nuts. So yeah, making sure that they are up to date. This is an example of what a workflow will look like when it's set up. I get it, it's small. You can't see it, but I just wanted you to see from a distance what that looks like. So you've got 2 triggers here at the top. Then they get these emails. These are time. So that's an email. This is a time delay. That's an email. That's a time delay. And then there's like a what if. Have they signed up yet? No. Then they get this email. Have they signed up yet? Then they get this email. If it's yes, and they get this email, there's a delay. And then so you can, and these can be super complex. Like they can look like full on spider's webs. And you can also, you know, develop these as they go. They can get more complex. Like mine gets more legs every time I go in and make adjustments. So let's talk about landing pages. So if you want to, oh, look at this nice little A. How handy is that? Without the A, if you go into this link, this is also the same link that's pinned to the top of my Facebook page with the 30-day challenge. This is so I could show you what a landing page would look like. I'll go into it now and show you. Let's just go through some of these points first. So make sure you use a CRM to create your landing pages. There are platforms we can just create them. There's no point. There's no point in introducing more software, more platforms. Just use the one in your CRM. They are just as good. You can then, you know, if people are signing up via a landing page, you can automatically dump them straight into your database. You can tag them that's where they've come from. You can set up multiple workflows if you want for them. Make sure you set up a workflow. Make sure you include testimonials on a landing page. It's always great. People, if they're coming to your business for the first time, they really want to see, you know, what other people think about you. And make sure there's the link to either sign up to whatever it is that you send in, which will, you know, sign them up to the database or direct them through to the website. So generally, 2 of the big main uses I use landing pages for would be, you know, like for a challenge or for an ebook or something like that, and they would put in their data, and then they'd get triggered into a workflow. So they'd receive whatever it was that they signed up for. They'd become part of the database. They're triggered into this workflow that's going to encourage them to become part of my community and become a client. And they will also then receive my weekly emails as well. Or I use it, if I'm doing multiple offers, I use it as a page to display those offers without having to change my website. Does that make sense? So it just sort of, it's like, okay, here's how you can work with me, for example, and then it has 4 different offers. Or let's just say you were a travel company. Here's my top 4 cruises of the week. You don't want to have to build all of that on your website. You just create a landing page, and you can replicate that landing page, and you could do that every week. You know, it could be like, oh, here's my weekly deals. And they can click through from your thing, and it would take, you know, minutes to set up because it's just a template that you can just, you know, drag and copy different links and copy and images into. Let's have a quick look at, okay, I did have one here. Yes. Okay, so this is one of my landing pages. No, it's not. It's my website. Ah. One page. I just have it ready. Where did it go? Maybe I lost it. Oh, okay, let's not do that. Where did that link go? Look at that, you just got a little glimpse into my class chat Facebook page. How professional. At least you can see, you know, just a mum in business, juggling life. Okay, this is one of my landing pages. So it's all about the challenge. Then they can sign up. Got some testimonials. And then just an explanation of what's going to happen next. That's a really simple one, but just to give you an idea of how that can look. All right. let's just wrap this all up. So I do have a special for anyone that's not interested in doing this themselves. I do get it. People are time poor. They don't love doing this sort of stuff. I do have a special offer. I've said in my group recently, I've teed up with an amazing graphic designer, and we're offering some cheap mini packages, but they are limited. They take on so many clients. So for this week, we're doing a database package. What that includes, 2-hour strategy session with me to plan 3 workflows, to create 3 workflows and a lead magnet landing page. Plus, she will set you up with a CRM if you don't already have it, and she will professionally design the 3 workflows for you. So then you'll have templates that you can just copy, you can replicate and resend out again. And those, we will do like a welcome one, for example. We can do one from your lead magnet, and we'll do one other that really works with your business. These are limited. We only can do so many. It is live